Hello, Homeschool Mama. This is Kim here today, and I am talking about high school transcripts. This is the second episode in the series about high school transcripts. So if you are homeschooling a high schooler, I hope that these episodes bring clarity about every single part of the transcript and that it just eases your mind. You can imagine and visualize yourself doing a beautiful and empowering transcript for your student. If you are not in this season yet of high school homeschooling and you're teaching kids that are younger than high school or little bitties, it's okay. You will still benefit from listening to these episodes. It's never too early to know what is coming in your life. In last week's episode, I told you about the blog that we have on our website and a couple of samples of the transcript. One of them is a editable PDF, and I do encourage you to just go in there and make one for your little kids right now. It's a great record-keeping tool. You can just have fun with it and have the kids even do it on their own. I'll remind you of my story about how even as a teacher and a college graduate, a person who had seen her own high school transcripts and college transcripts, when I was homeschooling my kids, I was absolutely petrified about how to make a proper homeschool transcript for high school. I thought, I'll never be able to do it. And this went on for a few years until I actually looked at one and spoke with one of my veteran homeschool mama friends who put me at ease. So I wish that I would have investigated it right when I started homeschooling my daughter. She was in first grade. But you know what? I would have saved myself a lot of worry. So this is for moms of kids any age. Last week I told you in detail every part. I boiled it all down box by box. This week I am only going to talk about course titles, class names. I will talk about ways that you can make your own course titles and class names if you're outside of the box and you're working on learning experiences related to their interests and strengths right now. Before I get started, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you so much to all of our listeners. We see the numbers every week. They've been going up. We can imagine your faces and like you listening in the car with your kids. Hi, kiddos. Thanks for listening and supporting us. We just reached a big milestone for us, 20,000 podcast downloads. That means 20,000 people have listened to a podcast episode. That really makes us feel like we need to keep going and we want to keep growing. And we're just asking you a favor today that if you do benefit from our podcast, that you will either share an episode that relates to a friend of yours, maybe someone pops into your head while you're listening that you think they might benefit from it. We would just so much appreciate it if you would share that with us. Or if you know how to rate a podcast very quickly, if you could go in and rate us, a 5-star rating on Apple would be fantastic, and maybe just give a few quick words about what benefits you do receive from our podcast. We want to grow and keep serving you homeschool families and just reaching out with Jesus's message about the benefits of homeschooling for him. And we can't wait to reach our next goal of 30,000 podcast downloads. So thank you in advance for any of that support, or just send your prayers our way. We so much need and appreciate prayer. Okay, so let's start talking about course titles. An important first step is to know your state homeschooling statute and graduation requirements. Some require certain core classes, others allow for more freedom. So that is the number one step. Find out from your State Department of Education what requirements are mandated for classes throughout their high school year. And of course, the other thing is if they have a future goal of going to college, you need to know what requirements each college they may want to apply to has for admissions. So the courses that your student wants to be reflected on their high school transcript needs to start with their next goal in mind. Some kids don't have a next goal in mind. They don't know what they want to do after high school, and that is a-okay. Don't be pressured. We know God has perfect timing. If they come up with a goal after high school and they need some class that they didn't take in high school, they will figure out how and when to take it. And remember, it's never too early to start talking to your children about what they want to do after high school in terms of academics for this very reason. If they say they want to be a doctor and go to medical school, there will be specific things that they may want to start doing as early as middle school. In some states, homeschoolers can work towards high school and even college credit as early as middle school. There are a lot of creative, innovative programs out there. If your child is into academia or vocational college, inspire them to do a little research and then tailor some classes towards their next goals. So those are the important first steps. Find out what your state mandates concerning high school courses that are required, and have some conversation with your child about what possible goals they have in the future and what classes would they be interested in taking for high school that would help them to achieve those goals. And then it's just a keeping track task. Every class, every year, you're going to document the names of the classes that they take. Some of them are no-brainers, like Algebra 1, Geometry, Biology with a lab. Those traditional class names are no-brainers. Whatever class your kiddo takes, that's what you're going to put down on the transcript. All right, so let's go to making your own course titles for classes that might be more experiential and out of the box. This seems pretty intimidating for most people. I know it does, but I have official resources for you. This did not just come from my brain, so you're welcome. And thank you to Cheryl A. Bastian, who is an amazing veteran homeschool mom, evaluator with her husband, and a mentor to many. I've gone to many of her workshops at the Florida Homeschool Convention, and she's written several books and made other resources for all ages, some really cool math books for little kids, real hands-on. But one of the stories that she told that just had everybody in tears was about one of her sons who was not a great student, and they didn't know what he was going to do after high school. They were very worried. And it turns out that he had this affinity for the muscles in the body, in the human body. He ended up going into some branch of physical therapy. I can't remember the details, but I do remember that was so inspiring about how we don't have to worry when we don't know, when our kids don't know, what am I good at? What do I actually want to do? That we could pray and ask God to bring clarity and wisdom and open doors that will help them understand the gifts and talents that they are innately given. And just to hear Cheryl talk about how when he started studying the human body anatomy, he picked up on these things instantly. And she asked him, how do you know this stuff? And he's, I don't know. I just do. And it was just so heartwarming. I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about it. But she really inspires families in this book called More Than Credits to wrap their minds and hearts around this idea that high schoolers can gain skills that they need for life by experiential learning, rich learning experiences, leaning into, like her son, things that they find that they're really drawn to. So this book specifically is about electives and how to turn some of these daily things they might be doing with their passions and interests and talents into a course title and credits for the high school transcript. I've got to share this quote from page 39. Helping our high schoolers discover their why, what they were made for, and how they can contribute to the lives of others is one of the greatest gifts that we can offer. And boy, does that ever go beyond the traditional idea of getting credits on a high school transcript, right? So the part I'm going to dive deeper into from her book is elective 3, and it's called Personal Awareness and Career Exploration. And this is the one that I chose for my son to get credit for because he came back from public school to homeschooling in October. And one of the things he started doing was some building and construction things. And I thought, if I can just keep giving him these opportunities, if he likes them, he can really turn it into something to put on the transcript, but something that might lead to a career someday. And just this week, we were talking about his interest in possibly becoming a mechanic for high-end, like NASCAR type of cars. Ooh, I don't know if that will happen. Like, he's never had his hands all in the grease and stuff, but he certainly is interested in trying. And that is what career exploration and personal awareness is all about. So he's having all of these different experiences with not only building and construction, but mechanics and fixing golf cart recently, helping his dad to work on my mom's air conditioner, just all of these things that are bringing him exposure to different careers that he might be involved in. And so this chapter gives titles: personal development, career preparation, career planning and exploration, leadership development. It gives a course description sample. It's about a paragraph long. It also gives some books that you could use to go alongside the experiential learning. It gives idea of how many credits it could be, either 0.5 or 1 if they do more work in the books, like creating some kind of written work or vlog, video evidence, or things like that. And I just think that it is so inspiring. There's a big checklist here of specific activities. For example, take a spiritual gifts inventory, many of which can be found online, and encourage family members to do the same, and then talk about what your spiritual gifts turn out to be in this inventory. There's even some classic American, British, and world literature revolving around this topic of character development and personal awareness. Even Shakespeare, Macbeth, or Much Ado About Nothing. I love it. This is just priceless for me. And a list of movies. Oh, Ben-Hur, Chariots of Fire. Just really cool, out-of-the-box ways that your kid can delve into this concept of personal awareness and career exploration. And she also has forms where you can keep track of volunteer hours related to this. You can put the books that they've read. She's just a little template with the title and the author, so like a book list, other resources, and like a website URL. The paperwork part of it, that bulks up the credit earning. One of the most compelling resources that she has in here, it's interviewing professionals in careers which did not require a college education. That's also inspiring, right? You don't need a college degree in certain fields to be fruitful in what you're doing. So that is my plug for Cheryl Bastian's book, More Than Credits: Skills High Schoolers Need for Life. And I'm going to give you one more super power resource that is all about state standards and course descriptions. Now, this is specific to the state of Florida, K through 12th grade. But if you are in a different state, I think you can certainly glean so much information from just looking at this website. And it's called C Palms, the letter C, and then the letters like the tree, Palms, PALMS. I'll put a link to this in the show notes. So it's www.cpalms.org. I'm not sure what that acronym stands for, but it is centered around these state standards. So if you are not a state standards girl, it's okay. Don't get freaked out. Just take a look anyway. It is a great place to not only learn about the different course descriptions and course titles, but they have a ton of resources. On the homepage, just click that you are a teacher and find the tab on top for course descriptions and directory. And then you can go down to all of these core topics like art, dance, drama, English, language arts. I'm going to talk to you about health education because that is where I am getting the title for another thing I'm going to put on my son's transcript because he's very involved in a competitive sport. There's a drop-down box under health education and a class titled Health 1 Life Management Skills. It has a little course in description. I'll just read it to you briefly. The purpose of this course is to produce health literate students that make sound decisions and take positive actions for healthy and effective living. The course is wellness oriented and emphasizes responsible decision making and planning for a healthy lifestyle. As I read that, I visualize my son training and then competing to follow through in his sport. Of course, he's doing all of that. So this title, Health 1 Life Management Skills, that could be an option for the course title that refers to the competitive sport that he is involved in. And to me, it just makes me feel confident in being able to put that down on his transcript. And if anyone ever asked me about it, I would refer back to this very official and padded with resources course. There's 85 student resources, which are activities that teachers can use that are related to that standard. Now, that might be a little bit over the top for some of you, but others appreciate this formal type of resource. That is cpoems.org, and the link to that website will be in the show notes, as well as a link to Cheryl Bastian's book, More Than Credits, and to the blog that I wrote last year about high school transcripts. That is it. Course titles for high school transcripts in a nutshell. Remember, every year you're going to keep track of every class they take. It might be a traditional class name or one that you create based on their individual interests and some experiential learning that they are doing. But either way, it's going to be awesome. And for next week, I will talk to you about how to create a credit that goes along with these course titles. So just think of these line items going across the page, right? The name of the class and a number that correlates with how much credit that they are earning for doing all the work related to that one course. Okay, get ready for credits next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm actually going to leave with a scripture today. Acts 20:35. In all things I have shown you that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak and remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. I chose that because this is what we're doing. We're giving to our kids the ability to bless other people in their life in the future with their gifts and talents. We're helping them hone in on giving their gifts to other people in a way that will improve another person's life. What a thing. What a great and wonderful thing that you're doing by creating all of the amazing experiences in high school for your children. And of course, your whole homeschool journey long, but it just does culminate in high school with this bulk of record keeping. I hope that empowers you, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.